Hey, what's up, G League fans? Hope everybody is doing good, staying healthy, staying safe out there, following all protocols so that we can get back to some basketball action. Today, we are going to be joined by Josh Magette, who is currently a point guard for the Lakeland Magic. He has played in the NBA, he has played in the G League, he has played overseas, he has done it all professionally. So we will be joined by him for a little Q&A like we did with Justin Anderson, and then we'll break down some of his highlights from the season, get some insight from him, how he makes some of the plays he does, and how he's become the floor general that he's become. So without further ado, we are going to try and connect in Josh in 1 second. All right, we have the request, and let's let that connect. And then when he gets through, we're going to start with the Q&A, and then we'll go to highlights. Don't forget in the comment section to drop your questions for Josh Magette. And speaking of which, looks like we're here with Josh. Josh, how you doing, man? How you hanging? What have you been up to?
I'm good. Kind of like everybody else, just finding stuff to pass the days in this unprecedented time. Just finding new stuff to do every day.
Have you picked up any new non-basketball skills? Have you picked up anything during this hoops hiatus?
Yeah, my wife's trying to teach me to cook a little bit, be a little more productive around the house. Got some house projects going on, installing a closet. So just different stuff I wouldn't be able to do if I was still in season, obviously. So I'm just trying to find new things to learn and still grow.
Nah, definitely good to become well-rounded like you are on the court. Definitely want to do so off the court as well. But all right, let's just jump into it. So sort of just starting from the start of your career, what a lot of people might not know is that you actually played Division II basketball before making it to the G League, the NBA, overseas. So it's an extremely unique path to take that route and get to the highest level that you have gotten to. Can you sort of talk through when you decided that you were going to go to Alabama Huntsville, what your D2 experience was like, and what making that jump to the next level was like?
Yeah, so for me, I had, as a senior in high school, I had 0 Division I offers, and then 1 Division II offer. So the decision was pretty easy for me. It was either stop playing basketball or come play at Alabama Huntsville. And it was the best decision I ever made, obviously. It changed my life forever. I got to play on some really great teams at UAH, play for a great coach, Lindy A. Cuff. And then, I had some good years at UAH, but then I had a really, really good senior year. And that was kind of when, the idea and the possibility of playing professional basketball kind of struck me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the opportunity to keep playing after my college career ended. And, it was pretty much a no-brainer to get paid to keep playing basketball. And I ended up going overseas to the Netherlands my first year. And I came back, was in the G League draft my second year as a professional in 2013. Went overseas to Greece my third year. Then came back, played in LA my fourth and fifth year professionally. And then I finally got the two-way with Atlanta, and then overseas last year. And then I was back in the G League on the two-way with Orlando this year.
So when you signed that two-way contract with the Hawks, you were actually the first two-way player signed in Atlanta Hawks franchise history. And, as a guy who spent 3 seasons in the G League and playing overseas before even playing or seeing an NBA court and playing in the NBA, what kind of mindset did you have to keep yourself on the grind and sort of know that you are good enough because, hey, you ended up making it?
Yeah, no, I think the word you used was right. It was a grind. There's a lot of nights where you sit up and you're just thinking, is this really what I want to do? Do I want to keep, grinding it out in the G League? And but in the back of my head, I knew that I hadn't reached my peak yet. I was still getting better and I was still progressing as a player. So I didn't feel like I was regressing at all. And I felt like if I could just keep getting better every year and keep making the right play and keep doing the right things on the court, that my time would come. And it eventually did. It's a hard line to ride, kind of. Do you jump overseas and do you take the money, or do you hold out for your lifelong dream to hopefully become an NBA player?
And, you sort of mentioned there that it's all about finding where you want to be and sticking with the grind, as you sort of followed up and mentioned about that. So as someone who's been through the grind of the G League, your first season, as you mentioned, you were drafted, started out in LA when they were still the Defenders before they became the South Bay Lakers. You're playing in the G League this season. What kind of progression have you seen from the league and the players in the league from your first season starting out to where we are now in the 2019-20 season?
Man, it's night and day. Every year, the G League and the NBA have done such a good job of putting more resources into the G League and taking it more seriously. And more you see, like, guys spending more time in the G League. And it's a real place for, draft picks or younger players to develop and to
Hmm.
grow their game. I think my first year in the G League, there was 18 teams, and now there's, 28, almost a 1-to-1 with every big club. And I think the synergy between big club and their G League team is
Hmm.
getting better every year. There's more of we're running the same plays. And when I was first in the league, it was just kind of every team. It's not always the same, and it's always
Yeah.
kind of like changes team to team. But
Hmm.
now you're seeing like that real connection between the big club and their G League team.
So you've been a two-way player for two different teams in the Atlanta Hawks organization and the Orlando Magic organization. Obviously, as a two-way player, you're going back and forth. You're practicing with the NBA team, practicing with the G League team, playing with the NBA team, playing with the G League team. I mean, guys, as you've seen, you can play in a G League game and an NBA game in the
Hmm.
same day, which is a lot of hoops and probably an awesome experience. But sort of the process of what you have to go through going back and forth, how do you keep your mind right for that? And how do you sort of just keep going knowing that you're going to be playing for two different teams, even though, as you mentioned, it is the same system trying to run the same plays? What is that mindset like going back and forth from two teams?
Yeah, it can be tough, just what kind of role are you going to have for one team compared to the role for a different team, but just a matter of staying sharp and staying on top of your skill set and reminding yourself what you can do and why they brought you in, and there's a reason you're in the position you
Mhm.
are is because you can play, and it's just a matter of having mentally knowing, all right, this is what I want to do going into a certain game, whether if it's with the big club or down with the G League.
100%. And I saw a question in the comments, just first of all, asking what a two-way contract is. For people who don't know, the two-way contract is a player who can be signed with 3 years or less service in the NBA. They can spend 45 days with their NBA team, and the rest of the time is spent with the G League team. So just for people sort of wondering what is a two-way contract, that started in the 2017-18 season, sort of like I mentioned, Josh was the Atlanta Hawks' first two-way player ever. So for the people wondering what that is what a two-way contract is. So recently, you got to play with USA Basketball in FIBA America Cup qualifying, got to go down to Puerto Rico, play there, come down to Washington, D.C., or for you, up from Lakeland to Washington, D.C., to play against Puerto Rico. I assume it's an incredible experience anytime you get to rep Team USA, put on that USA Basketball jersey. Can you sort of talk about what that experience was like and the guys you got to play with?
Yeah, of course. It was awesome. That's like the word that really sticks out. Every time I get asked about it, that's the word I use. It was so special to put, our country's letters on my chest. And especially the first game going down to Puerto Rico, it's a sold out arena of 10,000 fans,
Mhm.
all screaming Puerto Ricans. But it was special because, before the game, they obviously play our national anthem and to hear the national anthem with wearing USA on your chest is, it's a moment I'll never forget. And, to be able to play with other guys who are in the same situation as me, who are guys who obviously we think we belong in the NBA, and that's why we're doing what
Mhm.
we do. And we had that chip on our shoulder, and that's what we brought into both games, and we were able to be successful and win both games, and do our job.
And like you mentioned, you guys had two successful games there, able to get the wins for both of those. Now, sort of going back to the NBA, as a guy, you've played in the NBA in two different seasons. What are some of your favorite NBA memories from playing up there, and maybe some of the favorite guys that you've guarded in the league?
Yeah. Well, obviously the what comes out is my first NBA bucket,
Mm-hmm.
opening night, my year with Atlanta. Coach Bud was our coach. He came up to me the day before and was like, I know you've never played an NBA game, so if you want to tell your fiance and your parents and your family to fly out to Dallas, you're going to play.
That's
So
awesome.
I was really really excited just to dress out. And then a shoot around that morning, one of the assistants comes up to me and he says, "I think Coach Bud's going to throw you in there tonight, so be ready." So I was really really excited. 27 years old, never played an NBA game. Then I get thrown in there, halfway through the second quarter, and was able to make a three. It's a moment that I can still see the play in my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as players go, this past season, getting a guard and match up with Ricky Rubio, a guy I've looked up to and I love watching
Mm-hmm.
play. Both I kind of like to say I play like him, pass first point guard. And to get up to match up with him after, watching him for so many years was pretty special.
So now, when you were getting into basketball to start and you were deciding that this was going to potentially be a career, something you wanted to do with your life, who were some of the players that you looked up to and some of the players you aspired to play like?
Yeah, no, I loved, growing up in middle school and high school, I loved Rajon Rondo during his Celtic days. Obviously, Steve Nash was, like an idol to me. He still is. Somebody I really look up to. I'd say those two are kind of, who I can kind of like see myself playing similar as. Obviously, those guys are awesome and really, really good players. But I love watching them and just enjoy trying to model my game like them.
I wouldn't downgrade your game too much, man. You are second all-time in assists in the G League. You have had quite the storied career, have done such a great job with that. Now, sort of for playing in the G League so long and getting to the NBA, what helped prepare you the most playing in the G League for when you finally got up to the NBA and it was go time in the association?
Yeah, it's just, people don't realize how good the talent is in the G League. They just hear, oh, he's just a G Leaguer. Oh, he's putting up those numbers because he's in the G League. But there are some really, really, really good players in the G League. So every night, if you don't show up ready to play, you're going to get your butt whooped and you're going to, get embarrassed. So just, there's so many especially good point guards in the G League. So just night in, night out. And then as the season winds down and it's like the last, 15 games and teams are really, you've already played teams 2 and 3 times and teams are really scouting you and they know what your strengths are and they're trying to take that stuff away. That's how I think you can like really grow as a player and, do things that you're not normally used to doing.
So I see some questions in there sort of about playing with Los Angeles, playing with the Defenders and all of that. You had the chance to play with Andre Ingram, correct, when you were with the Defenders? What was that like, since today was the 2-year anniversary, actually, of when he made his NBA debut playing against the Rockets? 19 points, 4 3-pointers. We'll have some highlights for you guys on that later on our G League social channels. But sort of playing with a guy who has really committed to the G League, has played so long and got that opportunity and really made the most of it. What was playing with Andre like, and what were maybe some things you got from playing with him?
Man, Andre was the ultimate teammate. Somebody, I still talk to Andre, probably once or twice a month to this day. He's the ultimate, is a great locker room guy, keeps things positive at all times. He brings his professionalism every single day, whether it's a 30-minute walkthrough or it's, first round of the NBA or of the G League playoffs. He's just a great professional, somebody I learned a lot from. And, I know like the cliche, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, but like he deserved everything that came his way when there was in that game 2 years ago.
And it was awesome seeing him get his opportunity, obviously. So sort of bridging off of that question, I'm sure he was one of your favorite teammates you played with, but at the NBA and G League level, who are some of your favorite teammates that you've gotten to play with?
Oh, man. I've had a lot of good ones. My LA days, Ryan Gomes comes to mind, Vander Blue, Justin Harper. Let's see here. Speedy Smith was a great teammate of mine, someone I love playing with. Then moving on to my Atlanta Erie days, love playing with Jalen Morris. Jeremy Evans was another like all-time great teammate. He was a 6-year NBA vet and came in with the most humble attitude every day. He was awesome. And then this past year, we had a great team, and I loved every single one of those guys. But like guys like Emile Jefferson, who just like showed up every day ready to work, and guys just they put their egos aside and we're just trying to get better every day.
It's definitely going to be a good amount of Emile Jefferson when we go and watch your highlight tape. Yeah. So we'll be seeing some of that. We will get to that shortly, just sort of answering some questions. Down in the comments, if you have any questions for Josh, feel free to go down and drop those. What have you been watching during this quarantine?
Thanks, JP.
I see JP McCara down there throwing in a little comment. But what have you been watching during the quarantine? Any TVs or movie recommendations you want to give to people?
We just finished a new season of Ozark. Fantastic.
Very good.
Yeah, I've been watching Dave on FX. That's been a good first season. Trying to think. We watched The Boys on Amazon Prime. Very good. Then last night we watched The Scheme on HBO. That was the NCAA documentary. That was pretty interesting.
Very.
Yeah, no, we haven't. That's probably the highlights of our TV watching.
We actually just got a great question in the comments. Someone wanted to know sort of what your responsibility and role is as the point guard on the floor and your responsibility of calling plays and directing the offense. How do you take that into your own when you're on the court?
Yeah, early in the game, I try to, really get guys going and get other shots and just get everyone into a comfort level that they can feel good. The rest of the game, the last three quarters. And then depending on, what our coach wants and what we're trying to attack defensively, that kind of goes into play calls. And then, the third, fourth quarters is when I would, usually try to score a little bit more or take what the defense has given us and just try to be a little bit more aggressive when it, comes down to winning time.
And then another good question we got in there from another fan. If you weren't playing basketball, what would you want to pursue and what do you think you'd be doing with your career?
That's a good question. I majored in finance at UAH, so that's always been. I've always loved math. That's always been an interest of mine, but I don't know if I could, fully be away from the game of basketball. So coaching is always kind of, in the back of my mind as something I would think about doing.
We've seen point guards make the transition. I mean, you're basically the second coach on the court, so that would definitely make sense. All right, Josh, one last question from the fans, then we're going to jump to some highlights. Somebody wanted to know, is there any reason behind your jersey number or the number you wear, or is that just something you sort of picked?
Yeah, no, I've kind of moved around just because my number gets taken everywhere I go. I was 4 in high school, and that was my number, middle school, high school coming up. And then someone had it at UAH when I got here, so I just cut it in half, and I was 2 in college. Mm-hmm. And then my first year with the Defenders, they had like one medium jersey, and I was the smallest guy on the team, so I took number 9.
So you get to wear number 9.
Yeah, and that's kind of been my professional jersey all the way through, and then this year I went back to 4 with Orlando.
Definitely. And actually, one last question, because I saw another good question. For players who might be rookies who are starting out in the G League, guys who are working through it, what is the best advice you can give to someone in the G League trying to make it to the NBA?
I would say make every day count, whether it's a game day and you're in the rotation and you're playing 35 minutes, or it's a game, or it's, middle of the week and no game and you're just coming in to get some work in, treat every day, enjoy every day and treat that as an opportunity to get a little bit better. And then by the end of the season, you won't even recognize who you were at the beginning of the year. There's so many resources we have, whether it's coaches or other teammates to try and get better. It's nice to take advantage of it.
Definitely, and sort of like you mentioned, every day counts. Justin Anderson made the same point. Call-ups don't necessarily have to come right at the start of the season. You see them come at all points throughout the season, guys who have been successful getting a call-up first week of the season, second to last week of the season. There's sort of opportunities for guys all over the G League. We've seen the stat, which kind of blows my mind, is that I think it's just under 50% of players in the NBA have NBA G League experience, which, as you mentioned, you first played in the league in 2013-14 season. We have seen the league come a long way since then. So, Josh, we really appreciate you doing the Q&A. Are you ready to watch some highlights?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. We're going to flip the camera around here. We're going to start out with some assist highlights. So we're sort of going to take a look at how you use your role as a floor general out there, dropping dimes, and then we're going to get some buckets. Sound good to you?
Sounds great.
All right, let's get it started. So this first highlight is going to come from G League Showcase. You're a guy who's played in a couple of G League Showcases. What is that event like to you, and what does it mean to players playing there?
It's special because, every executive is there watching. So you kind of had to ride that fine line of not trying to do too much and still playing your game while also trying to showcase what you can do. And, our team just talked about winning games and making winning plays shows up more to those executives than anything else.
So we see a couple alley-oops starting out early, a couple nice dishes inside. How do you find the mix between maybe being a little flashy and trying to make the best play possible? Because you've got some nice dimes on there.
Yeah, well, we were really, really fortunate this year. Our big guys were great screeners, first of all, and then they were really athletic. So you can kind of get away with, making a little more flashy pass and maybe not as accurate, but they'll still go and get it at the rim. So we were really, really lucky to have those guys.
We've seen a couple of steals leading to transition opportunities. how much faster and how much pace have you seen the league generate, and sort of in terms of playing style, how much faster have you seen it become since you're starting the league?
Man, it's a lot faster. I think it's what the NBA was kind of a few years behind how the G League was playing as far as pace was going. Our scores were in the 120s and the 130s my first few years in the G League, and now, you look every night and that's what NBA scores are looking like.
Seen a couple of good dunks in here. Who is some of your favorite guys you've had to throw lobs to? Some of your favorite guys finishing off the oop and the alley oop?
This year, Mike Kaiser and Isaiah Armwood were my two favorite. You can kind of get a little creative with those guys. And it's good to see y'all got Emil's only dunk of the year on there. So I'm happy for him there.
A little stare at the camera here. So obviously in terms of being a point guard, you have to freelance a little bit out there. Sometimes you have to get a little bit out of the exact set when you're out there. How much do you like doing that and taking it into your own hands and sort of generating the offense from when you have the ball?
Yeah, to be honest, that's one of my favorite things to do. Our coach this year, Stan Heath, gave me a ton of freedom, whether it was not calling plays and just kind of freelancing and, letting our flow offense kind of work, or if it was something I saw and I wanted to make a play call, he kind of gave me all the freedom to do what I thought was best for our team, and I'm really thankful for that.
So we're going to get to a couple of three-pointers here, and then we'll get to the rest of your buckets. You sort of mentioned in the G League sort of being a little bit ahead of the NBA in terms of pace. Did you notice that same thing happen with the three-point revolution that we sort of seen in the NBA, or have you seen it somewhat consistent with what we've seen in the association?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at box scores every night, and it's like in the G League, we're shooting 40, 50 threes a game, and that was 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's translating over to the NBA, and it's come to the point where you can't really function or you can function as an NBA player, but you're much more effective if you have that 3-point shot. It's such a weapon that it just spreads the floor and makes people guard you from 30 feet out.
Defensively, we saw a good question on there. We've seen a couple more steals leading to baskets. What is your mentality as a defender, and what would your advice be to someone who wants to become a lockup defender as a point guard?
I think it starts, before the game ever happens. Scouting report, knowing what guys want to do, knowing your team's coverages and knowing your pick and roll coverage and what your responsibility is every play. So I think it starts there, and then you just got to have that mentality every possession that, it's got to mean something to you if your guy is going to score on you. It's got to mean that you got to take pride in it, and you got to be willing to put in the work.
We've seen a couple of spin moves here, a couple of step backs there. What are some of your favorite go-to moves to go to on the court when you're trying to get a basket?
Yeah, no, I hunted the step back a lot this year. I feel comfortable in it. Step back going right is a favorite move of mine. I love getting into the paint and then, kind of stopping quick and trying to get those little 3-point plays. Any threes I can get going to my left hand and off the dribble, I feel really confident in. That one's maybe a little lucky, but I just had a good sense of comfort and confidence this year.
Will we see a dunk?
Maybe. You never say never. These legs aren't as young as they used to be, so I have to be feeling really good. I would say it's low percentage at this point, but you never know.
You never know. We've seen a couple of different arenas here. What are some of your favorite away arenas that you've played at in the G League? What are some cool environments you've seen?
Yeah, no, I love going to Santa Cruz. When I was in LA, playing in Santa Cruz was always really fun. They have a great environment, great crowd. Playing in Austin's always fun. Austin's a great town. We played there in the Western Conference Finals, and I guess it was 2016. And they had a really good crowd, and we won. So it's always leaves a good taste in your mouth. Up here, going to Wisconsin's always fun. They always draw well. Any place that draws well always makes the game more fun and allows you to have a little bit more fun while you're out on the court.
Last season with Lakeland making the playoffs. What was that? What are the G League playoffs like, and what is that experience like when you got to play in them?
Man, it's like a 2.5 week long sprint. You know, with the new format that they instituted of one game elimination, you can't ease into any games. You got to be ready to go from the start. That's why, you know, the timing of this thing was so crazy. We had won 6 games in a row in Lakeland, and we were feeling really good about our team. So, you know, we felt really confident going into whether it was on the road or at home of anybody we were going to play against.
We saw at the start of this mix, we saw one of your buzzer beaters ended up getting Lakeland the win. Are you the type of person who, at the end of the game, with the shot on the line, wants to have the ball in your hands to make a play like that? And if so, what is your mentality when you have to go out there and know you got one shot to do it?
Yeah, no, that's kind of, in my opinion, that's why you play the game. You know, that's why you put in the work in the summer and during the season, is to be in that position and make the play. I like having the ball in my hand, whether it's making the right pass or taking the shot yourself. But that's something I pride myself on, is, you know, making the right decisions in games.
We saw a couple of comments in there as you played the Red Claws, obviously with Taco Fall being on the main Red Claws. What is your mentality when you have to go into the paint against a guy who's, you know, a 7+ footer like that? Do you have to change anything about your drive? What are you trying to do there?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot more driving to pass rather than driving to finish at the rim for me. You know, maybe those guys who can jump a little higher than me try to finish over him, but yeah, either that or get to my floaters and get the ball up a lot quicker than you're used to, just because, you know, the size is there, and he's coming for you.
And back to the three-pointers, we've seen quite a few deep three-pointers from the notch and somewhat even the logo. How much have you seen guys' ranges extend since you started playing in the league, and how much further guys are shooting back now?
Yeah, that's part of the game. You know, it's not just regular threes and just spotting up on the arc. It's, you know, 4 or 5 feet beyond the arc, and you know, it's something that guys feel comfortable with. It's shots they practice during the summer and in season. Is, you know, how deep can you go back and still feel like you're shooting your normal shot and still have that comfort level of when you're shooting.
Perfect. Well, Josh, that is the end of the highlight reel. We have very much enjoyed doing this Q&A with you. We've seen a lot of awesome fan comments. A lot of people have really enjoyed it, really enjoyed your answers, really enjoyed hearing your story of how, which is really an incredible story, making it from Division II to the G League to the NBA. It really is an awesome story. Josh, any closing comments before we wrap this up for the fans?
No, just appreciate everybody tuning in. It was a great year. Loved being in Lakeland. Great year for the G League to continue growing, and, you know, I just think it's going to keep getting better every season.
100%. All right, Josh. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we enjoyed you coming out and talking to the fans.
Appreciate you guys.
See ya.
See ya.